Hey guys, it's Tim here. I just wanted to hop in before this video and say I know it's been a long time since I've posted on YouTube. I apologize for that. You know, I'm fine. I'm good. Life is good. Just have a lot going on right now, and got some exciting stuff coming out in one of my future videos here soon. But in the meantime, I just couldn't stand to not post any more videos because I'm doing so much work, and I don't want all this footage to just get put onto a hard drive somewhere and never looked at again. So this video is a little bit different than usual. It's a little longer format, kind of more of a set it and forget it type of video. I'm going to set you up on a tripod, and I'm just going to kind of do my thing out at the mill. It's one of my favorite places on earth, and I can't wait to show you guys more of it. Anyways, hope you enjoy this, and we'll see you soon. All right, so next I am going to work on trying to quarter this log so that we can quarter saw it on the mill later on. It's just too big to get onto the mill. It's too big for our equipment, and we just don't have the capacity. So essentially, this is what I'm gonna do. We already did it to one log. We already quarter sawed one of the quarters from that one, and now we're gonna move on to this guy. A little bit smaller, but I think we'll get it done no problem. The hardest part with this is just not running your chain in the dirt. Got a pretty big bar, and you can't just go completely vertical with the bar. You have to kind of know where your bar is. So I try not to go all the way through. I tend to go through in some spots, but try not to go all the way through, and then we try to just wedge it or pick it up and move it around until it breaks open. So first thing I like to check is to see if there's too much dirt in the bark, and if there's too much dirt, then I try not to run my chain through it. But this one looks pretty clean on top, where I'm going to make my first cut. So I'm just going to use a chalk line and try to mark a rough line across so I have a reference. If I had more hands, that would be better. So for this, I'm using my 661. It's got ripping chain on it. This one does have full comp chain. It's not skip tooth. I like skip tooth a little bit better, but this does stay sharper a little bit longer. The bevel on the chain is 10 degrees, I believe. So I do hand file it. It takes a long time, but sometimes I hand file, sometimes I get it sharpened. Depends on what my needs are. If I'm out here and the chain is dull and I need a new chain and I don't have one, then I'll hand sharpen. So works just fine. If you file your rakers down and have a sharp chain, there's no reason that the saw shouldn't be shredding the wood. I'm just trying to find some to show you guys. You should be getting long shreds of wood like this. That's how you know it's sharp. And filing your rakers down is important, so that you get a good bite out of the log and that you're not just sitting there revving your motor up. So I highly recommend filing your rakers down and start with a sharp chain. Don't do this without a sharp chain. If you hit dirt, rocks, the ground, anything, you're gonna have to file again or get a different chain. Just warning you. So enough talking, let's just do it. Hey, it's me again. You might think I'm hypocritical for just talking a bunch about using a sharp chain and only cutting with a sharp chain, and if you have a dull chain, don't use it. It's funny because this is a dull chain. You can tell that it's just not eating that wood very nicely, and the truth of the matter is that I had just gotten done sharpening that entire chain by hand with a file. I think I wasted like, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour sharpening and filing down the rakers on that. And I just wanted to get through this log. But you'll see here in a little while that I ended up actually needing to sharpen it before I went into the quarters, once I cut the halves in half again. If you can get multiple chains, these are like $62 or $64 a piece. They're not cheap at all. But if you can have a backup or two, yeah, man, it would save so much time. So here I'm just trying to score the log down its length for the first time, and I'm going kind of slow, but I'm also using the kerf as my guide to keep the cut straight. So the other thing I want to talk about a little bit is the difference between noodling and ripping. Noodling is when your bar is parallel with the length of the log and the ground, and you're still cutting radially toward the pith or the center of the log. Ripping is when you're doing something like chainsaw milling, where the bar is perpendicular to the length of the log. It is cutting directly into the end grain. It's parallel to the end grain. What I'm doing here is kind of a combination of both noodling and ripping. I'm noodling on the ends of the logs. My bar is parallel with the log and I'm cutting straight down, from the top down. That's noodling. When I'm standing on top of the log or on the side of the log, not cutting from the ends, and my bar is kind of angled down into the log, that's ripping. Or at least it's partially ripping, because I'm severing the end grain. So noodling, ripping, why does it matter? The terminology doesn't really matter, but it's helpful to understand that ripping is more challenging than noodling. And that's because if you think about the analogy that we often use for wood as just a big bundle of straws, when you're noodling, you're essentially just pulling those straws apart. You're shredding them. You're getting in between them and pulling them lengthwise apart from each other. When you're ripping, you have to sever the ends of the straws. You have to shear them off. That is a much harder cut. It also requires a much sharper chain. So you can technically noodle with just about any chain. You could use a crosscut chain filed with a 30-degree top plate. It doesn't really matter because it's the easiest cut out there. You're separating the wood fibers along their length. You're separating the longitudinal cells. But when you're ripping, that's when it really helps to have a ripping chain with a shallower angle and preferably a skip tooth pattern with rakers filed at somewhere between 25 and 35 thousandths. And since we are doing some ripping here, I would recommend using a ripping chain. Because when you get into those cuts from the top down it's going to be much easier if you're using a ripping chain than a crosscut chain. Now, I don't claim to be an expert on this, so if there are people who have more experience with different types of chains and raker depths when doing this type of cut, please chime in the comments. I'm all ears. Anyways, we're going to end this science lesson now and let you guys get back to the video. Alright, now we're gonna see if we can split this. I'm pretty far down, probably not quite all the way through, but I want to just see if we drive a wedge towards the base, the bottom of the kerf, what is going to happen. So I'm going to go pretty low. I'll even go lower. I'm just going to pound on. Come on. Starting to hear it go. I don't think this wedge will be enough. I might have to put one on the other side too. Let's go. Can you guys hear that? That cracking, splitting. Alright, so that one's sunken. And now I'm going to grab another wedge and try from the other side, see what we can do. Always be aware of which side is more likely to fall. it's starting to open up. So that means that most of the wood is split. Now what I might do, since I can see down there in the kerf, I might go through with my saw and just kind of trim some of the wood fibers that are still holding it. I'll drive this a little bit more and see if we need to do that. Oh, it's so close. All right, sunk with my wedge, can't go any further. So the other thing to consider is that, you know, if you have big equipment and you can just lift this up or pry it apart with forks or something, you can do that too. I'm trying to do it without that right now because someone's busy with the skid steer right now. But now from this angle, I can kind of see that I didn't do a very good job keeping that bar up and down, but that's all right. It's okay. I changed my mind. I'm actually going to get a piece of firewood or a couple pieces of firewood and try to wedge them in there. That's just the safe route. Close. Okay, there we go. That's all there is to it. So that's how you can cut it in half, and then from here I will cut each of these. From here I'll cut each of these into quarters, so that we can go ahead and quarter saw them straight away on the mill. Try to get as close to the pith as possible. Like you can see here, that's the pith. Your first board, when you quarter saw these, will get rid of that pith then. But that is just gorgeous. You guys see that quarter sawing the ray fleck right there. You can tell that my chain was starting to get dull. I'm really having trouble with focusing. It's really starting to get dull. Should look more like this or even longer. White oak. Beautiful white oak. So this video is getting pretty long. I'm not gonna go through the whole process of cutting these halves in half again, but I'll show you a few clips from that here. So here's a good way to tell when you're getting close to cutting through the log. The sawdust is going to start to resemble the color of the bark, and there's going to be a lot less resistance going through that part. So you can kind of see and feel it coming. So we're wrapping it up. We got the 4 quarters done there. Overall, pretty excited about this. It'll make some really nice quarter sawn material. We already did a bunch of this, maybe like 1 or 2 logs. And it did make some beautiful quarter sawn white oak, as you can see there. The ray fleck. Still have this white oak log to mill up to. Not really sure how I'm going to do this. We might do it with a chainsaw mill actually, just because it's so big. Set the ladder like that. Got some cherry logs over there. They've got rotten sapwood, but we've been able to get a few boards out of the centers. Yeah, a lot going on here. Red oak, 2 basswood, white oak, some ash back there, and then all this pine and spruce over here. There's like 6 times this coming still. Hope to make some tongue and groove or shiplap or something for aesthetic uses. Nothing structural. I'm getting pretty cold, so I'm going to wrap this thing up, but I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to check back, like and subscribe so you can see the next ones. Thanks for sticking with me. Lots of sawing today. Hopefully you're interested. Hopefully you learned something. And we'll see you on the next one.